Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I am the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I would like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is the second in our series of monthly member webinars, and we're going to be talking today about giving and tracking referrals through BNI Connect. As a matter of fact, we're going to be talking about being able to track and submit all types of slips through BNI Connect, including one-to-one slips and thank you for closed business slips and CEU slips, as well as the referral slips. BNI Connect has a way that you can not only submit those, but from a chapter perspective, they get automatically entered into the POMS report. But what's even better is that you then have access to all of the details of those slips far into the future so that you can go back and review them at any time. As a longtime member of BNI myself, I became a member of BNI in 2002. This is probably one of the biggest boosts to my membership that I have seen since I became a member 12 years ago. By the way, I am a member here in the Wakefield chapter in the Rhode Island region on the East Coast of the United States. But anyway, a couple of housekeeping things before we get started with the content today, and that is that this is a live presentation. So I'm going to be showing you some things in BNI Connect and walking you through the process. But if you have any questions at all during the presentation, please do feel free to stop me and ask those questions. The best way to do that is to type the questions into the questions panel. I will see them pop up on the screen, and I'll be able to answer those as we're going along, or if it's something that's completely unrelated, we can tackle that at the end. We're scheduled for about a half hour or so of content, just so I can be respectful of everybody's time and busy schedules. That being said, if you do have questions, I am always happy to stay on these webinars as long as you have questions until every single question is answered. That's what we do here in support. We answer questions all day, every day, so feel free to ask as many questions as you like to, and we will stick around to answer them all. This webinar is being recorded, so the entire webinar is being recorded. It will be made available in two different places afterwards. It takes me a couple of days to get them uploaded, so I'll have the first couple of February webinars up there shortly, hopefully in the next couple of days. But the way to find them is, the first place is to go to the support site. Now you can either just go directly to support.bniconnect.com, or if you're logged into BNI Connect, click on this question mark in the upper right-hand corner. That will take you over to the support site. You'll see our list of upcoming webinars, and if you scroll down just a little further, you'll see a section called Chapter Training and Documentation. This is where you'll find guides and walkthroughs for everything in BNI Connect. In addition, this has a chronological listing of the recorded webinars. So right now, again, I haven't gotten the February 2015 ones up there quite yet, but you could review any of the ones from January 2015, including a copy of this particular presentation for giving and tracking referrals online from a month ago. You can also go directly to the YouTube channel where all these are hosted. Now that is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. And here we not only have all the recorded webinars, but we have a ton of additional content, including some special messages from Dr. Meisner, as well as a series of educational moments about BNI Connect, short 3 to 5 minute videos that you can use for training your chapter on different aspects of BNI Connect as well. One final thing that I'm just going to say before we get started is that I know that there may be a number of members from Canada, Australia, and New Zealand here on the call with us today. If that's the case, I very much thank you guys for being here today. You'll be able to preview this functionality, but your memberships will be migrating over to BNI Connect sometime in early to mid-April, at which point you'll actually be able to start utilizing the functionality. We do have one question right away from Joe. And Deborah says, hi, it's Deborah from Canada. Deborah, good to see that you successfully connected, as well as I know Miss Carol Bell is from Canada, I believe, who was having an issue connecting yesterday or Monday. Joe asks, can you get a CEU for today's presentation? Yes, you can. Basically, anytime you do any additional learning, whether that's the recorded presentations or the podcasts or anything like that, you can submit a CEU slip. So we will cover that in just a couple of minutes. Okay, Joe? And yes, this does count. We'll put it that way. All right, so let's get started. Again, the online slips. And really what this is this came about in October of 2012, so it's been active for a couple of years now here in BNI Connect, and it gives us the ability to, rather than fill out a piece of paper at the chapter meeting, we can go log into BNI Connect and to input that activity online. And there's a number of benefits for doing so. The first of which is it really helps to speed up especially the referral process. So when you submit a referral, it sends the person a notification about it, and people can get started on that activity right away. So you don't have to wait until the chapter meeting to pass that referral. It can be done electronically. The second reason is it really, if we have any vice presidents on the line with us today, it really makes your vice president's life a lot easier, because all of these things, the original reason for even having the slips of paper was so that the vice president could take that stack of papers back to their office, sort them all out, and count them all up and enter them into a giant spreadsheet online. By submitting these slips individually as members, that makes your vice president's job a lot easier. It automatically inputs them into the report. All that vice president has to do is review the activity and click submit. Takes what usually would be a 45-minute to an hour-long process on a weekly basis and makes it only a couple of minutes for them so they can concentrate on other things. So the third benefit of doing this is the benefit to you as a member. When you're passing the slips at a chapter meeting, just a paper slip, because the vice president is only entering the statistic, yes, it was one referral or one one-to-one or one CEU, whatever that might be, you can actually save all of the data for any of these. So you can go back and review this data later. So let's take a look at how this works. And Kenneth, I do see a couple of your questions, and I'll get to those in just a second. So once you log into BNI Connect, this is the home screen that you'll see. This is called the member portal or the member module, and this is where we're going to do all of our basically daily and or weekly activity. So this section, if you need to update your information, you can always click on any of the links up here or go into Options, My Account. The next section here is your personal, basically My BNI Business Report, and what this is a look at your membership over the last 12 months and lifetime. And what this is really doing is taking your information, pulling it out of the chapter POMS report and presenting just your information for you here. So you can see the referrals that you've received, the referrals that you've given, the thank you for closed business that you've been thanked for by other members, your visitors, your one-to-ones and CEUs. Now this information will show up regardless of whether or not you're using the online slips. So whether you're using the paper slips or whether you're using the online slips, this information will show up for you, with one exception, and that is revenue received to my business. So one thing that we were able to add is the ability to track how much money you've made in BNI, because when you thank other people for generating business, we'll keep track of that for you and start to tally up a nice total for you there. Now, if you'd like to see the details of this information, so you can always click on the My Personal Participation Report up here. And this is a link that will actually pull up your personal POMS report for the past year. So this has 1 year's worth of activity. And it will show me week by week by week by week exactly what my credits were for those particular weeks. So how much I was thanked for business and how many CEUs I had and how many visitors I brought, et cetera, whether I was present or absent or late. All of that information is in there on a week by week basis. This also means that if you ever see a problem with your POMS report, you say, hey, you know what, I don't remember being absent that week, or I could have sworn I had turned in a couple of referrals that week. You can always go back to this report, figure out which week has the error, and be able to tell your vice president to say, hey, by the way, I think there was an error on this week. It makes it much easier for them to figure out where the error is and go back and correct it. It'll also give you a summary of all of your attendance, any members that you might have sponsored in the past 12 months, and any training information, training instances that you might have attended that you were marked as having attended those. Those are, of course, ones that you would have registered for as events in BNI Connect. So that's the Personal Palms report. We have a couple of questions. Let me get to these questions. Ken was looking for educational moments unrelated to BNI Connect. Ken, I'll show you a couple of resources at the end of today's presentation, if that's okay, if you want to stick around for a couple of minutes after we're done with this material. Ken asks, how does the referral go to the member by email? If so, I use Google Mail. Will it automatically go to Google Mail? The referral notifications will go to whatever email is in your record in BNI Connect. So it'll be forwarded to whatever you put in there. So whether that's a Gmail address or a personal email address or AOL or Hotmail or whatever you want, whatever is on your record, that's where it will be sent to. Deborah asks, is this portal accessible by mobile phone? The site itself can absolutely be accessed on a phone, on a tablet, on whatever you want. It is not specifically mobile adaptive yet. That is something that we are working on and hoping to, in the next year, have available. They are making those decisions as we speak as to when and how that's going to look. So let's take a look at how this, one other question from Ken. What is a CEU? So a CEU is a chapter education unit. So when you do some learning about BNI, whether that's reading a book by Ivan Meisner or attending one of these webinars or anything like that, you can input a CEU. Not all regions around the world, not all countries are using the CEU program, but if you are utilizing it, you can enter those CEUs here in BNI Connect. All right, so let's take a look. Let's take a look. How do these slips look and work here in BNI Connect? So let's just go right down the line. All the slips and the activity surrounding the slips are going to be here on the bottom of the screen. You can see the first four say submit thank you for closed business, referral, one-to-one, and CEU. So those are the four different types of slips that we can submit. The next thing is how I can track my referrals that I've received from other members in BNI. The next four, I can review any of the slips that I've submitted and the information about them. Then there's also a received referrals report. And finally, the ability where we can print out paper slips if we want to bring to the meeting. So let's take a look at submitting slips. So the submit thank you for closed business slip, let's say that I click that. That would allow me to input a thank you for closed business. All I need to do is to select somebody from my chapter by the drop-down box. So let's say Seth Jacobson. He's the photographer in my chapter, and he did some business with me, and it was $1,200 worth of business. It was a new referral. It was an inside referral. Everybody hopefully knows the difference between an inside, outside, and Tier 3 referral. If you don't, a Tier 1 referral is when two members do business with each other. So in other words, the referral stayed within the chapter limits. So Seth, being a member of my chapter, he referred himself to me, did business directly with me, and therefore this is an inside referral. If he had referred me to his wife, his sister, his cousin, his aunt, his uncle, his grandmother, his best friend, his business associate or colleague or client, that would be an outside referral or a Tier 2 referral. A Tier 3 referral is if somebody that was referred to you then refers you to another person, one of their friends, so it now goes a level deeper in the relationships. That would be a Tier 3 or higher referral. But since it was Seth directly, this is a Tier 1, and I can also put some comments in. And let's say this was for some data recovery on a damaged hard drive. I can review this information, make sure it's correct. Now, with the thank you for closed business slips, one thing to keep in mind is that these are private and confidential to you. So this is, nobody else will be able to see any of my comments here. The only thing that will happen is that Seth will get this credit for generating $1,200 in the PALMS report. So that means that you can be as specific as you would like in here, and nobody else can see it. Again, I can't see that information. Dr. Meisner can't see your comments. The Vice President cannot see those comments. It all remains private. When I'm sure everything's all set here, I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. Now, it does give you a reminder that we absolutely, when we get to our chapter meeting that week, we want to celebrate this activity. We want to stand up and talk about it. We want to say, yes, thank you, Seth, for generating $1,200 worth of business to my business. The only difference is we don't necessarily have to have a paper slip to turn in, but we do want to celebrate that activity. Now, once I've submitted a slip, one thing that you'll notice is none of these numbers up here will change quite yet, and that's because we still have to wait for the statistics to become official. So we have to wait for our Vice President to go in and submit the weekly PALMS report before these numbers up here will change. However, you'll notice that for each of the slips, there is a corresponding Review My Slips report. And what I can do is click on this Review My Thank You for Closed Business Slips. I can choose a date range. By default, it's going to give me a 6-month window, but I can change this to whatever I'd like. If I'd like to do bring this back to 2012 and look at all my slips, I can. And here I can see all of the slips that I've passed over the past couple of years for Thank You for Closed Business, as well as all the details. And if I need to remind myself of the comments, I can see all that information here. Now, one of the hidden gems of this report is the fact that you can actually go back and review this. Do you know who your #1 referral source is? Who is giving you the most money in your chapter? When you're using the paper, unless you're keeping track of that separately, then you may not know that information. Once you get it into BNI Connect and you start tracking all of the information, what you can always do is click on Thank You To. And you can sort this list by person. I can see who I'm giving the most thank you to close business to. There's a whole bunch for them, and there's a whole bunch here for Angela Moon. These are the people I want to make sure that I am having the best relationships with, that I'm meeting with, that I'm thanking them, maybe outside of just turning in a slip. You can also sort this by amount to find out, for example, who gave you the biggest referral. And now all of this information is available to you on a regular basis. Now, one other thing that you'll notice here is that on the right-hand side, you'll see a PALMS status. And as I said before, we do need, before the results become official and they're included in all of the reports and PALMS and statistics and things like that, the VP does need to submit the weekly results. So you'll notice here that this one that I just entered for Seth Jacobson for $1,200, this one is still in draft mode. And that means that our VP, either our meeting hasn't happened yet this week, obviously, or our VP simply hasn't submitted that. And I can see here, there's a couple from when I did this presentation a month ago, that our VP hasn't submitted last month's report yet either. That's because we are on the test system, by the way. Now, we do have a question here that says, can you correct it after you've submitted it? So Ken, yes, you absolutely can correct this. Let's say that I did make a mistake on this, and this one for Seth Jacobson here is incorrect. Now, anything that's still in a draft mode can be corrected. So I can click on Edit, Delete Slips. This will bring up a window for all of the slips that are still in draft mode that I can go in and correct. And let's say that this thank you for closed business to Seth Jacobson, I need to make a correction. I can edit it. I can even change the person that this was supposed to go to. I could update the amount. It wasn't $1,200, it was $1,500. Make any additional comments, etc. Click Submit, and that will now become corrected. I can close this window. I do have to re-pull the report in order for the updated information to show, but you can now see that this is $1,500. Once my vice president submits that weekly report, then this will be completed and I will no longer be able to edit it. So hopefully that answers your question there, Ken. All right, so let's take a look at the next type of slip. Next type of slip is a referral slip. Before I move on to that, Darlene says, what about former members? And on the thank you for closed business slip, you'll notice that if I go all the way down on my drop-down list, there are 2 additional lines for BNI and visitor. So the BNI line is for past members, or let's say that your director consultant made a referral for you that turned into business and you'd like to thank BNI for that referral. So past members and BNI related referrals within the region, those are considered that. And also if a visitor has, let's say, referred themselves to you and that turned into closed business. So we do track that revenue generated by visitors as well. So hopefully that helps there, Darlene. All right, so let's take a look at the referral slips next. Now, this should look familiar. It does look pretty much identical to a regular referral, paper referral slip that we might have at a weekly chapter meeting. The idea is the same. Choose somebody from your chapter. Let's say I'm going to choose Janet Birtwell. She's the picture framer that's in our chapter. And let's say this referral was to my mother. It's an outside referral because it's somebody other than me. I can put all the address information in. Telephone number, email address, and any comments. So, my mom is looking to get one of my pictures framed. I can then rate the referral on a scale of 1 to 5. Let's call this one a 4. And now you'll notice on most of these slips you also see Save and New or Submit. Submit will input this slip and then bring me back to the home screen. Save and New will allow me to submit this one, and let's say I have 2 referrals to do. I can just click Save and New. It'll bring me right to a new referral slip so I can fill out another one. Now, the other thing that we can do with Thank You for Closed Business and referrals and one-to-ones is that there's an option for cross-chapter. So that means that we are a bigger network now, and we may have relationships in our regions outside of our chapter. So maybe it's a chapter that's 2 towns over, or maybe it's a chapter that meets right in the same place that you meet, just on a different day of the week. Chances are that as you go to training events and networking events, you tend to form relationships with people that might not be represented right away in your chapter, or maybe they do more specific things that isn't in conflict with the person in your chapter. You can record the activity with them as well. So to do that, what I can do is click on Search Cross Chapter and search for the person. Now keep in mind, this will only search for other members in your area, so in your region of BNI. So right now we do not have the ability, I could not pass a referral to somebody in New York or California or Nevada or Canada or Germany. Right now I can only pass referrals to other people in my area, which is Rhode Island. But I can do a search for somebody. I'm going to do a search for one of my good friends, David Cordero. I never know whether he puts in Dave or David, so I'm just going to put the first couple of characters of his name and click search. And let's see if I can find him here in the list of Daves. I can also do a secondary kind of character search over here and filter. Oh, here he is, David Cordero. I can see that he's in the City Biz chapter, his company, and if I choose him, am I sure? Yes, and now this is going to go to David. Again, I just fill out the referral information and I can submit this referral as well. And of course, The Review My Referral Slips will show your referrals right away. That's how you know that they were successfully entered. And again, I can change the date range if I'd like to. And take a look at all the referrals that I've submitted. And here's the one that I just submitted to Janet Birtwell and Janet Walsh. Now, the information on this is also sent via email. So Janet Birtwell, in this case, would have received an email from me saying, congratulations, you just received a new referral through BNI Connect. And here's all the details about that referral. Here's an actual referral that I received just about 2 weeks ago. And this is, I can see that I received the referral from Joe Sylvia. This was actually a self-inside referral. He gave me his phone number, knowing I had his other contact information. Puts in the comments, and it also gives me his contact information as well. So the great thing is I can follow up on this right away. Most importantly, because most of us receive these on our cell phones, our emails on cell phones, we can just click right on the phone number and start dialing the number right away, or click right on the email address and start a new email to that person. So it's a lot quicker getting this referral done, and you don't have to send an email and fill out a referral slip. You can just do it once and it will be recorded. Okay, Deborah has a pretty long comment here having to do with Privacy Act and Do Not Call list. So usually, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but generally speaking, definitely talk to your executive director first. Or if you are an executive director, Deborah, please talk to Don Morgan, your national director. I don't want to pretend to know the laws in each and every country, but I can tell you that generally speaking, the minimum requirement for passing a referral is the fact that the other person is already been given permission to call. So if I'm referring you to my mother, for example, the minimum requirement for this to be a referral is the fact that I called my mother and said, hey, I'm going to introduce you to Janet Birtwell, and the permission is then given. So the permission should be assumed that they're able to call at that point. Otherwise, it's just a lead. If I'm just writing a name and a number on a piece of paper, that's not really a referral, it's a lead. Does that make sense, Deborah? So, but again, please check with your national director, with your executive director, for specific procedures for your country and your area as far as the laws go there. Make sense? All right, cool. So that's the referral slips. We also have one-to-one slips. And one-to-one slips, pretty straightforward. You choose the person in your chapter that you had a one-to-one with, or cross-chapter. You can choose who initiated that conversation, where you had the conversation. You have a coffee shop here called Brewed Awakenings, what the topics of conversation were. By the way, Michael Katoya actually grows grass. He is a turf farmer. And the date that you had the one-to-one. One thing to keep in mind with these one-to-ones is that only one person of the pair needs to enter this, and they will be able to, it will show up in both people's reports. If a person tries to submit a second one with the same person for the same day, then a warning will pop up saying that there's already one in existence. And of course, we can review our one-to-one slips. What I like about the report for reviewing one-to-one slips is the fact that you can actually plan out your one-to-ones. So, for example, I could expand this a little bit. Let me go back a little further. I can look through this list and say, you know what, I haven't had a one-to-one with Brian Fish in quite some time. I haven't had a one-to-one with him since February of last year. That's been almost a year. I can really say, you know what, I probably should get together with him again. He used to be a great referral source, but we might have fallen out of contact. So you can use this list as a means of strategizing your one-to-ones to make sure you're getting the most benefit out of your membership. And finally, we have the CEUs. Again, I realize that some areas might not use CEUs, but if you do, all you need to do is to choose the quantity of any of these different opportunities for learning. For example, for today, I would put in a 1 under BNI webinar here, because I attended one webinar, and click Submit. And this will line up a CEU for me this week. And of course, there's a corresponding CEU report. Now, we can also track our referrals that we receive only when other people have submitted them online through BNI Connect. And there is here a received referrals report as well. So I can go back, I can look at any referrals that I've received from other people that have submitted them online in BNI Connect and look at any of the details. So if I need to look up a phone number or something like that or an email address, I can go back to my received referrals report and look up that information. Now, the other thing you'll notice is that there's a bunch of other information on here as well. For example, contacted, interest, presentation, follow-up, status, thank you for closed business, spinoff. You can track additional information about these referrals as well by using the Track Your Referrals option. All right, I have to go back a little further. This is our test system, so I don't receive a lot of referrals in the test system here. There we go. So I have a referral here, John Smith, and I can go in and edit this in order to either update information, or I can mark what the status of this is, when I contacted them, when I met with them, when I followed up with them. I can track my own thank you for closed business. Note, if you want the thank you for closed business to be put into the POMS report, you do have to submit a slip for that. This is just if you want to track it separately here. I can change the details of the temperature and all of the other information on here if I'd like to. Now, you can also, if you want, if you have a referral that wasn't entered online or you'd like to track a referral from someplace else, you can add new and input your own referrals that you wish to track through this mechanism. Please know that this particular function, nothing you do here will impact the POMS report. This is just a tracking purposes only. I'm going to click on the home button to go back home. And then the final thing is a lot of people say, well, what are we supposed to do about the meeting? If we're doing all of this information online in BNI Connect, why bother even meeting anymore? Or why bother even having the referral and testimonial portion of the meeting? Well, one thing to keep in mind is that we don't want that part of the meeting to change in any way. You absolutely still want to go to your weekly meeting, and you still want to celebrate all your activity every single week. And we can do that using the weekly slips here if you'd like to. All you need to do is to click on Go, and what we'll see here is what's called the Personal Meeting Activity Sheet. Now, what this will do is it can print out actual referral slips. They're approximately the same size and shape as a paper slip that you'd fill out at the chapter meeting. And you can use that to input, for example, the door prize or for the referral reality check. That's a lot of regions do as well. Now, the rest of the information, you notice that it's just organized, but it's not in slip form. And again, there's really no need to turn in a paper slip for that information since it's already in the POMS report, but it does organize it for you so that you can go through and you stand up during that portion of the meeting. I had a referral for Janet Burtwell. I had a thank you for closed business to Seth Jacobson for $1,500. I had a one-to-one with Michael Katoya, and I had a CEU slip, one CEU credit this week. So it organizes the information, makes that meeting, part of the meeting, a lot more efficient as well. All right, so that is the online slips in BNI Connect. What I'd like to do is we are at the bottom of the hour. Again, to be respectful of people's times, if you do need to leave right away, thank you so much for being here. This is being recorded, including all of, we have a bunch of questions that just came up, so I'm going to be answering all of those questions. For those of you that can stick around, please feel free to ask as many questions as you want to. I would be happy to answer those questions now. If you do need to leave, again, thank you for being here. A reminder that this will be uploaded to youtube.com/BNI Connect Global, as well as on support.bniconnect.com. All right, so let's take a look at some of these questions. So Deborah said, yes, we'll need to document the permissions, and you'll speak with Kai and Don. Excellent idea, please do. Kenneth says, what about slips for visitors for coming? So what happens is when you're, depending on the process that you use in your region, usually when the visitor host marks a visitor as attending a meeting, so they enter the visitor information, that will give you credit in the PALMS report for inviting that visitor. It will also automatically send them a thank you letter for visiting. So that all happens automatically. There's no need to actually submit a slip for that, as long as your chapter support is recording visitors and entering them into BNI Connect. So I do have a webinar that goes through the entire visitor process. That one will be, let me just check the schedule here, we'll be going over all of that information on Monday, February 23rd, so a couple of weeks from now, Monday the 23rd at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. All right, does that answer your question there, Ken? All right, let's see. Darlene says, can historical data be tracked? I.e. 2014 referrals received, if they can be input. So you can do that using the track your referrals received online. You can add as many as you want to in here, and it won't impact the PALMS report. I would caution you against going back and submitting any actual slips, because what that's going to do is it's going to go back and, affect the PALMS reports. So I would not go in and start entering a bunch of actual slips, but for referrals that you've received, if you'd like to track those, you can. Does that make sense, Darlene? Does that help? Dawn has another question. Says, we can send thank you for closed business out of chapter. What about sending a testimonial to out of chapter individual? So testimonials, you can, we don't track through these slips testimonials. So those, if you're tracking testimonials as part of the PALMS, that is done separately. It's not a global thing that we track those, although there are a couple of countries around the world that do that. As far as giving somebody a testimonial, as long as you're connected with that person in BNI Connect, which brings us more to the social media side of things, you can give them a testimonial. So they can be outside of the chapter, in another country, whatever it might be, as long as you're connected to them. So I'll be reviewing that particular part of the process. That one's going to be this Friday, so 2 days from now. Your Global Network, it talks about the social media functions. That's going to be this Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. So hopefully that helps. Dawn? Carol says, why can you only do business within your own region and not globally? So the answer to that question is that this particular ability to to submit cross-chapter activity is actually a choice in each individual region. So here in the United States, we have it turned on. Everybody in the United States can do a cross-chapter referral. However, there are a lot of countries that do not allow cross-chapter activity. So therefore, until it becomes a worldwide accepted thing, we can't really turn it on all over the place. So right now, if it's enabled within your region, you'll be able to participate in your region. And someday, hopefully, the whole world will say, yes, we embrace cross-chapter referrals, and I'll be able to pass a referral to somebody in Zimbabwe or in Great Britain or Canada. In the meantime, you can absolutely connect with people around the world, and that will allow you to, you can still do the business and pass the business, but you won't be able to record it for Palms credit. So Ken says that he's having a really hard time hearing on this webinar. Is everybody having a hard time hearing? I know that personally I am battling with laryngitis for the past couple of weeks, so part of it may be me. My voice is actually going in and out physically, so I apologize for that. Otherwise, Ken, if it's it seems like I'm hearing, my audio is great. I'm hearing it okay. I can hear you fine. So it might be your connection, Ken. The recording should have everything in it if you need to review it afterwards. So thank you, everyone. Let's see, a couple more questions we have here. So Ken, you have some more questions on visitors. So let me just show you real quick what happens with a visitor. So with visitors, when a visitor is entered into BNI Connect, so a visitor comes to your chapter meeting, a visitor host or a vice president, secretary, treasurer, whoever it might be, they can go into BNI Connect and record that visitor as coming to your chapter meeting. And what this does is it builds a visitor database for your chapter. So you can follow up with visitors. You could go back and do reports on visitors. You can contact visitors and invite them back another time, all sorts of things. So they can go in and add a visitor. So what happens is they fill out all the information about the visitor. And once they do this and they save it, an email will go to the visitor, and then whoever they chose as the person that invited that visitor will get credit for it in the Palms report. Does that make sense, Ken? So Deborah asks, can we customize the email that goes to visitor? On a regional level, you can customize that. So Deb, are you an executive director, just out of curiosity? So Deb, yes, as an executive director, all of those automated emails that go out, including the visitor email, can be customized. I'll tell you more about that on one of our ED training webinars over the next couple of months. So Ken asks, will it refuse to accept a visitor on a second visit? No, it will not refuse. There's no checking that happens. They can be entered multiple times. However, when the person is entering it in, they do have a choice whether or not it is accepted. Okay. Let's see, Socorro says, going back to closed business, when it's a commission pay, do you enter the commission pay or the total sale? Generally speaking, and this is open to interpretation, so please check with your executive director, national director, director consultant for how it is done in your area, but the usually it is reported as gross commissions to your company or gross sales to your company, depending on the profession. You can actually find a description, the official BNI description. Go to the support site and do a search for Slips Overview. In here is a document that was written by headquarters that explains thank you for closed business, including all different examples from different industries. So I would review that and then review the preferences in your particular area. So Socorro, hopefully that makes sense there. All right, let's see. We have some more questions here. Ken asks, what if a member does not enter his slips online? Can the person entering the stats do it for them? And the answer to that is no. The only person that can enter the details for the slips is the member themselves. The VP or whoever is entering the stats, all they have the ability to enter is the physical statistics. Part of this is because if we actually allowed that, I think we would have a massive revolt of vice presidents around the world. But secondly, for security and privacy reasons, it is left only to the member to enter that themselves. Deborah says the webinar has been very helpful, and you are very welcome. Thank you so much for the compliment. Let's see. Ken, we can do a search for some educational moments in just a second. So Dawn says that I asked about visitors. My invite isn't showing in the report. So definitely, Dawn, talk to your vice president and or your visitor host to make sure that they're being entered properly. And if you use this personal participation report, that would also help them to know which week it might be missing from. Carol says, what does it take to turn on the all regions and other country interactions? What will it take? It will take every national director of BNI around the world to agree that it's a good idea. Then it'll be then it will be accepted worldwide, and we'll be able to turn it on from a technology standpoint. Deborah says, as an ED, is it possible to be set up on a test site to be able to log in and navigate through and learn the site? Deborah, absolutely. If you want to email me separately, support@bniconnect.com, support@bniconnect.com. We can get you set up in our test area to be able to play a little bit with the system and find out more about it. And we'll also be reviewing a lot of that type of information on the upcoming series of executive director webinars. All right, so Ken, let's see if we can help you out with some educational moment videos. From what I know, there's a couple of different resources that you can find educational moment videos and things like that. Ken, can you remind me, are you in Canada or are you in BNI Connect as well? So one place that you may want to look as far as educational moment videos is to, there are some resources within BNI Connect, and one of those resources is if you click on My Network, you'll see a Documents section, and these may be things that your region has shared. So, for example, here in my region, there's a couple of goal planning documents that are shared. So you might want to check there if you are a member of BNI Connect. If not, the other places to go, BNI.com, just regular old BNI.com. You'll see that there's a login in the upper right-hand corner. There is a protected section that's done by position. So if you're a director or if you're an educational coordinator, talk to your executive director and they can give you the login based on your position. And this has a ton of different materials for podcasts and different things that you can use in order to use for educational moments. There's also other resources online. Networkingnow.com has a lot of things, and entrepreneur.com, as well as just do a search on YouTube as well, or on Google, because there's tons of resources out there. If you do a search for, let's say, BNI educational moment video, there's tons and tons of things available out there. There's a website, educationmoments.com, that was created by somebody to help and share BNI educational moments. So there are a ton of resources out there that you could take a look for. BNI.com is open globally, so that's just a matter of definitely talk to your executive director on that one. I do know that the UK has put together phenomenal series of basically short videos. May or may not be directly educational moments, but a lot of them are very funny videos on various topics. So you may want to check out, I think it's bni.eu. They have a lot of videos that are hosted on their various sites that you can take a look through. So hopefully you find that helpful. All right. I think that is the last question I see here. If you have any additional questions, by all means, please do feel free to contact me. support@bniconnect.com. A reminder, this is recorded. I'm going to make it available as soon as I possibly can up on the YouTube channel. Also, please do go check out our support site. If you found today's webinar helpful, please, a great referral from me is to let other people know about these webinars and invite them. Our next webinar, again, is on the social media aspects. That's going to be on Friday at 9 a.m., followed by member tools and reports next Monday. And finally, I would love it if you gave us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. We do reminders about webinars and tips and tricks and all sorts of things up here on our Facebook channel as well. So please do give us a like up there and follow us. In the meantime, have a great rest of the week, everybody, and happy connecting.